Shirley Farrar, and you have just entered Encouragement on Fire. An Encouragement on Fire, we are discussing defeating cancer, sickness, and disease. And as you all know, I recently went through um, overcoming, conquering cancer. And I am so grateful to be on the other side. And now this is my testimony. This is my paying it forward in this podcast. So I am grateful to be able to be before you each and every week. As long as I'm able to do that, I will be here, encouraging you that tomorrow, though it may not be promised, today you can live to the fullest that you could possibly live to. Okay? So let's get started. As you know, we are talking about ALS, or Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis. And last week we talked about stage 1. This week we're going to talk about stage 2. And before I get started, I want to talk about, as I always do, our encouragement. Hi everyone, this is Encourage Minute, and we are going to discuss today the disparities in the burden of preventable cancer risk factors. I talked to you several weeks back that we were going to implement this in the actual content. And so I really want to make sure that we continue to talk about these disparities. Now, according to Cancer Progress Report, .aacr.org, there are cancer health disparities, and they are the following 5. They are development, risk reduction, early detection, treatment, and survivorship. And there are 2 questions that I say to you, or I propose to you today, and they are: why do these cancer health disparities exist? Why do they exist? Well, according to Cancer Progress Report, there are 3 reasons, and they are racism, discrimination, and segregation. And that leads to structural inequalities and social injustices. The second question that I propose to you today is: what are these inequalities and injustices? Well, let's kind of talk about that just briefly. The first one is social economic, and which is education, income, employment. You know, it really does matter when people are striving to become educated, particularly if they are coming from a low socioeconomic environment, and they are pursuing to be better. They create jobs and companies. They start out to build in their communities to be able to do more for their families. I know there are a lot of mom and pop shops. I'm really happy that they're coming back more in our communities, our small restaurants. Many people strive to pursue small businesses and, like I said, education. And for me, I ended up getting 3 degrees because every time I would go for something different, someone told me, oh, it's not enough education, or it's not enough, you don't have enough experience. So we began to pursue more and more in our environment, our life, striving for more because someone else says that, that's not enough. My question to you today is, when is it enough? So, social economic, it's a disparity. It's this inequality. And when people strive to do more, to do better, there shouldn't be gatekeepers that push them down or oppress them and make them feel that they can't do more. So if you're out there and you can be an advocate for someone, you see people striving, you see people who want better, you see individuals that, in their communities, there may not be jobs, but there could be employment or companies or even their own personal business that they want to pursue. These are the pathways that we help one another to get to another level. I'm not talking about somebody who doesn't want it. I'm saying to you, there are many people out there who are in different socioeconomic levels or environments, and they want help. They want to pursue. They want to do better. And so we should be advocates for one another to help someone, to bring someone uh, to a table that they um, most of the time they would never sit at. So the second one is clinical, and that is the healthcare access and healthcare quality. In certain neighborhoods, there are disparities. Sometimes depends on where you are in the United States. The hospitals, I know where I live, there are probably 5 hospitals within a 20-minute radius. But in many communities, you have to drive many, many miles, sometimes hours to get to a hospital or a proper clinic, are accessible to all members of their community. These are the things that the Cancer Progress Report has brought to our understanding. The third one is cultural, health beliefs, health related attitudes. In every culture, we all have things that we believe, things that this is the way it's always done. And with education, with understanding on both sides, to have a new perspective of how we progress or how do we move from here. Is there a balance in our thinking? What do we need to do? So in families, in our cultures, we share that information culture to culture. We're learning different things about one another and what works and what does not work. The fourth one is behavioral, diet, tobacco, right? Use, excess body weight, physical inactivity. All of these things matter. We talked about it before: exercise, eating right, healthy living. In our families, these are things that we inherit. We inherit them from our parents, our parents before them. Sometimes it's cultural. Sometimes it's things that we has never been done. So this is what we continue to repeat generation after generation. And then the fifth one is psychosocial or stress, mental health, isolation. Um, it's important. Mental health is really important. We need to make sure that we do self care. We are taking care of ourselves. We're not just um, living for one day. I don't know about you, but before I had gotten sick, I always, even though I said to people, we shouldn't be this way, we shouldn't think uh, one of these days. But I think in some way I was living that way, that one of these days I'll go here, or one of these days I'll travel to this place. One of these days I think I'm going to do that. And I've learned that, again, tomorrow may not be promised. So what are you going to do today? And that's a question I propose to you today. What are you going to do today? And how are we going to live our best life? Are we implementing self-care in our calendars? This is really important. Every week, we do our calendars for our employers, for our personal businesses, for our faith-based organizations. But what about you on your calendar? Are you even on the calendar for self-care? When is the last time that you thought about you and you took care of you? When is the last time that you had a pamper day, or the last time it wasn't about, maybe because your parents are older, it wasn't about your parents that day, or it wasn't about your children, it wasn't about your spouse, it wasn't about your job, it wasn't about anyone else. But at that time you were selfish and you had rights to be, because it's always about someone else. When is the last time you went and had a checkup at your doctor's office? When is the last time you said, you hadn't been feeling too well? And now it's time for you to find out why. So I am here to encourage you, encouragement on fire, to do just that. So the number 6 one is biological. So that's genetic. Like we said before, epigenetic. We talked about these things. Is the cancer or any chronic disease, is this something that is hereditary? Is this something biological in your family history? Do you know your family history? There are many of the different websites now, ancestry.com. There are different ones that are based culturally. I encourage all of you to, if not use one of those, to call your family members and start to find out the family history, because you will find out so many things. Oh my goodness. I am so thankful to members of my family. I give them a shout out. On my father's side, one of my cousins, Leslie, you know who you are. She was so wonderful by doing the ancestry.com for our family and putting all of those things together, where I can literally log in and see every member of my family on my father's side. And it goes far into generations. And then I can also, on my mom's side, um, one of my cousins, Shirley, you know who you are. Shout out to you. She did a wonderful job in putting all of our ancestry information online. We have pictures. We have so many family members, and it's important. Sometimes, things happen in the family where you don't write down information or history. We should all know why someone died. What did they die from? Uh, we need to find out if it was genetic. We need to find out if it was something about, how did they live? Where did they live? All those things matter. They matter in how we live our lives culturally, how we live our lives socially, how um, our health is, our diets are. All these things impact us each and every day. And the last one is environmental, and that deals with our air, our water, housing, transportation, community safety. It really does matter if individuals have food and water equality. You know, it affects your health. According to the Cancer Progress Report, .aacr.org, they say that all of these are disparities in the burden of preventable cancer risk factors. So I want you to go to that website. I want you to look in more depth about it. I will always have this on my desktop to remind me about these disparities. And remember, I'll say again, those five cancer health disparities are development, risk reduction, early detection, treatment, and survivorship, which leads to all of the other things that I just talked about. We're talking about cancer today. We're talking about A.L.S. today. We're talking about chronic diseases tomorrow. Many of these same factors affect all throughout our communities. Okay, so we're back. I'm not going to be before you long. I know we're going to talk about stage 2 of A.L.S, but I really want to make sure that we are encouraging you today that today is your day. What can you do about today, right? We do plan, because it is important to plan, even though tomorrow's not promised, but we do plan for tomorrow. We do plan for the weeks to come. We do plan for the future. But right now, right at this very moment, what you do will affect tomorrow. It will affect next week. It will affect years from now. And that is why that they're doing a lot of research to make sure. Our doctors are wonderful. They're doing research. Our scientists are wonderful. They're doing research to make sure that you have a tomorrow. That if there's possible, if any way they can put it together to make sure that you're going to be here, that they're going to do that. So what we need to do is we need to look at what's going on right now and not only talk about the symptoms, because if an individual is out there and you do not have ALS, but you have some of these symptoms, I need for you to go to the doctor and I need you to do some blood work. I need you to talk to your doctor and find out what is going on. It may not be ALS. It may be something totally different that you can fix quickly. Don't look for things that are negative. Don't say, oh my goodness, I don't want to go because of this. It could be something that's so minute, so innocent right now. But remember, we don't want to put things off, because sometimes, even though it is innocent or it's small now, if you wait, it could grow, it could magnify, and it could be something that the doctor could have said, if you had come to me 2 years ago, we had a treatment for you that could have fixed it in a matter of time. So that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure we go right away to our doctors to get help and to get assistance. Okay, so I'm encouraging you today, do this for yourself. You are important. Okay, so some of the symptoms that we're going to talk about just briefly today, and they are coming from MDA, or Muscular Dystrophy Association, also TARGETALS, or targetals.org, and Medical News Today. So some of the symptoms they're talking about, that there's some paralysis. They're talking about affecting your muscles. They're talking about how it will affect the movement of your joints, right? And then there are sometimes that individuals are affected in how they talk, their speech, being able to eat, those type of things, even down to breathing. And then there's something that is odd that they were talking about, and I'll mention that at the end. But let's talk about muscles. So your muscles are affected, and this starts out slowly. So at first, there's your muscles, it could be some type of paralysis in different parts of your muscles throughout your body. And then it begins to spread throughout the body. And there is something called fasciculations. It is the twitching of the muscle, or it may continue throughout the body. So sometimes, maybe people get it, you have the twitching in your face, and sometimes it could be on your hand, or in your body, in muscles throughout your body. You will know if it's happening to you. Now, is every twitching this? No, it's not. But if you didn't have twitching before, and now you have twitching currently, there's something that's affecting your body. So could it be something that you're applying to your body? Absolutely. It could be medicine that's causing that. It could be products that we use on our bodies. We have different allergic reactions to things. But don't you want to know if it's that? You don't want to just let it go and say, well, it'll fix itself. It may not. So we always want to encourage ourselves to do what's necessary, because it is better to know something before it gets out of hand. And then there is the muscle atrophy. So there's the shrinking of the muscles. Now, we have to look at this, because when we're encouraging you to exercise, what are we always saying? They always say, do yoga. It lengthens your muscles, right? So you stand straight and tall. There's a reason that we have certain types of exercises that people do. It makes you stand erect. It makes you stand straighter. Your posture is better. What ALS does in stage 2 is it causes increased weakness in your muscles. And so the individual not only is going through paralysis, but they're also going through just that weakness of the muscles. So, you always have to lay down. You're just tired. And then, those joints, they start to kind of curl up a little bit. They're not as straight, So what can you do about this besides maybe implementing yoga into your exercise? You could also they have the stretch labs now. You talk to your doctor about that, but maybe that's something that they can help stretch your body out. Um, and let them know your health history when you go in, as well as talking to your doctor. If you have a physical therapist, they can help you with certain exercises that can lengthen those muscles and keep them, there's exercises every day they may give you that can help you in that process. Also, talking to your chiropractor, all of these different types of doctors work together and they will have a plan for you, right? A healthcare plan that they will all work together and collaborate. Sometimes it's done online. I've seen some of the different systems, especially for myself. The family practitioner is on the same system as your specialist. So all these doctors are working together, and the nurses and all the different people that we've been talking about. When we have our occupation monthly, we talk of different occupations for each of these type of chronic diseases, and hopefully we'll get to that for ALS. What are the type of medical doctors that help us in this particular specialization, as we're moving forward. But, it's really important that we try to do as much prevention as possible. And maybe we'll go into that a little bit more. So there are some additional physical effects. If you're not using your muscles, a lot of times we think that every muscle in our body we use each and every day. That's not true. I'll tell you how you know that's not true. If you go out and you get a trainer and that trainer starts to work you out, first thing they'll say is, we need to stretch because there's some muscles that you haven't been using and you're probably going to feel it after this workout. I know many of you have heard that before. You have experienced that before. I've experienced that before. I'm thinking, why in the world is my legs hurting like this? Because there's certain muscles, even though we may run, even though we may walk upstairs, there's certain muscles, right? On the side muscles, all these different things. These type of muscles are not being used. And so there's different types of exercises that will bring that out. Sometimes if an individual is having difficulty in stage 2 ALS, they really haven't had the opportunity to walk. So if you haven't been walking, the muscles begin to atrophy, right? And so when you're about to use them again, now you have to build those muscles up and it's harder. So now there is joint pain, right? There's contraction of the muscle. Those muscles become really rigid and painful. Sometimes in this particular stage, the muscle can even it can look deformed. So we have to make sure that if you have been diagnosed with this, that you fight it with everything you have. And that means all the different specialists that I just mentioned, making sure that they're part of your health plan. Remember I said, whatever we do today makes a difference a week from now, makes a difference a year from now. And you don't know what the scientists and the doctors, what type of research, what type of benefit they're going to come out of some type of maybe new drug or some type of new exercise program or something that's coming in the future that's going to benefit you to have a sustainable and beneficial long life. We don't know that. And so we try to do what we can today. I told you, we try to do what we can today that's going to benefit us for the future. Okay. Also, individuals in this stage have a difficulty standing up. They have issues with the back. So I know everyone's familiar with the lumbar pillow, and there's different types that you can purchase online. And these are the type of things that bring relief. They're not going to fix it, but they bring relief to you. So The unfortunate thing is at stage 2, individuals sometimes aren't able to drive anymore. And you may have to have that talk with your doctor. And they may say you really need to let your license go. And you may have to be chauffeured. You may have to rely on your friends to get around. And, you know, it is going to be challenging in stage 2. From what the research, I don't know because I'm not personally in this situation, but from the research that I'm reading, that it's going to be challenging. But I'm encouraging you today. Put all of the things you need in place that can help you to overcome this. There is a weakness in the swallowing muscles. So it affects an individual swallowing the saliva. And, this is not something like acid reflux. Okay. So many people out there, I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, I have issues with saliva. It's not that at all. It's something more serious. And that's why I'm talking about these things, because first of all, those that are listening that are called to help individuals who have ALS, I'm talking to you too, to make sure that if you're that person, that you are aware of all the needs that they have and that they're going to need from you to be that friend, to be that confidant, to help them through their process, right? The sooner that an individual, if you know somebody who's going through some of these symptoms, the sooner that that individual, maybe it's a family member, the sooner they go to the doctor to have this diagnosed, the better, because there is medicine, there is help, there are specialists, there are resources that can be put in place to provide a better, beneficial quality of life. And this individual, not only with the swallowing, but there will be some breathing, because there's breathing muscles, and they're going to have difficulty sometimes breathing. So they may have to be put on a respirator for breathing or given oxygen. Sometimes lying down. Now, you can go through cancer, you can go through other chronic diseases, and sometimes you have difficulty lying down, especially if you're on chemo or different things like that, or other medications. But this is a little different. This is the muscles in the body giving out. And so this individual needs assistance. Now, I told you there was this last, effect that happens in the body. It is called the pseudobulbar effect. And individuals have uncontrolled laughing or crying. And this is not something that they want to do. It's because of the muscles, because of the atrophy of the muscles. And so there needs to be compassion. There needs to be love. I looked on the A.L.S. Association online, and you can do the exact same thing. There is an article. The title is How to Help Families Impacted with A.L.S. A good read. And that's why I'm encouraging you today. There are 2 stages beyond stage 2, the final stage and the ending stage. We'll talk about them maybe in the next podcast. But I want to talk to you today about how do you encourage someone who is going through ALS. I don't care what stage they are, but they're going to particularly need you at stage 2 and stage 3, or, final stage and the ending stage. We need to encourage people no matter what they're going through, and not be judgmental of how they have gotten there, because like we talked about, it could be genetic, hereditary. It could be genetic. It could be something that we don't have control over. And what if we did? We have all made mistakes in our lives, and we find ourselves in a crossroad. And you never know when you're going to be in that crossroad, and you're going to need someone to be compassionate and provide love to you and understanding. and help. And so I encourage you to, take a good look at this article. But it talks about what are some things that you can do to encourage someone. And they're going to need help in their daily activities. So what can you do? It's not about, being that hero, jumping out there and saying, I can do all of it. That's not what this is about. This is about what can you do, being honest and saying, I can do this for you. And even if you can only pick them up and take them to their doctors, then just do that and be consistent. If you can help them and go pick up their medication or do something of that, then do that. Don't try to do everything and then all of a sudden pull away and then you don't do anything. If you find someone in your inner circle, if you find someone who mentions to you they have ALS, this is not a time for you to be afraid or to say things like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is a call to action of how can we help someone outside of ourselves. The next thing is their work. Making sure that individual, if they want to work, they want to have their company, their personal business. If they want to work for another company, to what degree can they still work? We have systems in place now in our different states that help us to not be discriminated against if we have situations like chronic disease. And so I say to you, utilize those services, reach out and get those benefits for yourself, because you should have the right to work as long as you can do the job that you have the title for. And also hobbies. If you have hobbies, don't stop doing them. I know sometimes, when you're in the middle of chronic issue, I've been there, I thank God that I came out. But when you're in the middle of it, continue your hobbies. Stay consistent to who you are. Get up in the morning, right? Rise and shine. If you were a person that was used to running in the morning, or you ran in the evening, if you can't run anymore, then walk in the morning, walk in the evening. Don't stop doing what it is you love to do. If you love going out in the park, just go to the park. If you are a person that's helping someone who has ALS, you need to know that they need to continue to do their daily activities. They need to try to do their hobbies while they're fighting for their life, while they are doing all that they can possibly be. Be that advocate for them. Friends and families out there, if you have someone who is going through ALS, don't run away from them. I say that again. Don't run away from them. Be consistent, how small or how impactful you can be. But don't run away from them. This is a journey that no one should go through on their own. Any chronic disease, you should never go through it on your own. And if you can be there for them in the smallest of ways, then do that. They're going to need you. They're going to need you in every stage. And like I said, while you're still taking care of you, I don't want you to just not take care of yourself. You still take care of you, but whatever small things you can do for them, whatever services you can get them partnered with, because there are many services in the community that provide help. Maybe we can talk about those type of services that provide help to individuals who have been diagnosed with ALS. And then, there's some support groups. So like I said, we'll talk about that in the next podcast with the stage 3 and the stage 4. But if I can't say it enough, please stay in touch with the people that have opened up their heart to tell you that they have been diagnosed with ALS. Because they didn't have to tell you. Sometimes people disappear right? We talked about the disparities of health, the mental health issues, right? Sometimes people just say, no one wants to be bothered with me the way that I am. And so they just disappear. And the research does state, as we talked about, people will abandon people who are sick. But always remember, and I have to say this, we talked about the golden rule, right? We talked about the Bible too, and what the Bible says about it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You never know when it's going to be your turn. You never know. It could be tomorrow. It could be this afternoon. And what you have presented to someone else, right? If you abandon someone else, hopefully you won't be abandoning yourself. So I encourage you today, if you have the time, and we all have the time, we get so busy in our schedules, but we all have the time. You have the time. You have people around you, whether it's A.L.S. or whether it's another chronic issue, and you can see that individuals need help. Sometimes helping someone is just visiting them. Sometimes it's just a call. Sometimes it's a consistent call. Sometimes we call someone and we think that's enough. Consistency. Have you been consistent in someone's life? You know, Theodore Roosevelt said a quote, "It's not what you know." People don't really care about that. People really don't care about what you know. They want to know that you care. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you today. Take the time today to encourage someone else. Even though life is not promised to us tomorrow, it's a good thing to do self-care, to take care of ourselves, and maybe take care of someone else. I'm Shirley Farrar, and this has been Encouragement on Fire. I'll talk to you soon.